Are men okay? It's a simple question, but one that is rarely asked. We talk about men as providers, protectors, and leaders, and too often as perpetrators of crime and violence. But how often do we stop to examine the pressures, expectations, trauma, struggles, and silent battles many men face every day? Across Guyana, men are at the center of some of our difficult national conversations, from suicide, crime and violence to family breakdown, education and mental health. Yet, despite the expectations placed upon them, many men continue to struggle in silence, often without the support they need. This week on Sources, we examine the issues confronting men in Guyana and explore the root causes behind some of the challenges they face. Joining me for this important conversation is clinical and developmental psychologist and father of five, Dr. Telford Layne. I am Svetlana Marshall, and this is Sources. Welcome to Sources. This evening, we're exploring the root causes of the challenges facing men and boys in Guyana. To do so with me, I have in studio Dr. Telford Layne, a clinical psychologist. Dr. Layne, welcome to Sources.
Thank you very much for having me on this prestigious program. I looked at it and maybe I had dreams of being here.
Lovely. Well, you're here.
I'm happy to be with you and to talk about this interesting topic as it relates to men in Guyanese context.
Dr. Layne, you're a clinical psychologist. You're a father of five. Tell us a little more about yourself before we get into the issues.
Well, I'm neurodivergent. We can start from there. I came out of school without CXE, struggled with ADHD and dyslexia until I found myself after burning many bridges in my early 40s. And then I make a transition into understanding myself and better able to help people navigate their broken lives and to live the best life forward after that.
When you look at men in Guyana, what most concerns you?
The lack of awareness of the destruction of men at a very early age, let's say maybe from 3, and the continual negative parenting and societal expectations of men, and how men have evolved to be destructive in their own lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Let's take it back, because oftentimes we hear about these challenges, and there are men like yourself doing excellent things in society, but of course we must admit that there are many, many challenges facing men. And so the intention of this program, for those of you who are listening, is to really get to the root causes of those issues. Now, you spoke about from a tender age and the expectations and how men and boys are treated. Let's start there. What would you say are the fundamental issues? Where do they stem from?
The fundamental issue is the perception of men. Men compared to women, women can originate their own identities and own sense of worth and existence. For men, that is predicated on societal expectations. If we look at centuries ago, men were cultured and raised and parented to be warriors, to protect the family, to bring food. If you look at the concept of marriage, one of the fundamental reasons women dropped their last name was that they serve men. She's no longer important, or needs no longer come first. So it's Mrs. Telford Layne. So she's there to serve. Life has transitioned from that. Even if you look at Bible time, women weren't allowed to speak in church. Women were considered properties of men. And so what happened now in the 21st century is that we wake up to a new realization that men are not warriors. They are more to being a man than being protective, than being a provider. And men are grappling with that. So our parents parented us to abandon our emotions. We were cultured to believe that for a man to get the respect and adoration from anybody and have women at your disposal, you make money, you make more money, you make all the money, and then you still make more money, and everything is going to fall in line. Until you wake up in the 21st century and realize that the woman that you have makes more money than you or equal money like you, and then you begin to struggle with relevance, you begin to struggle with identity, you begin to struggle with sense of belonging, because you're being parented and cultured on false premises.
How do we undo that? I want to get to the dangers in these expectations we as a society have of men. But before we do that, let's get to what do we have to unlearn?
Well, it's twofold. It's the responsibility of parents, especially mothers, especially sisters, especially aunts, to have a new approach to how you parent your son, your nephew, your cousin, your friend from a very early age. Allow him to express, help him to embrace his emotions, help him to label them, to express them so that he can deal with the challenges that he faces. The other fold is that as a man, you are under your parental control until about 18. And then you realize at 19, it's now your responsibility to understand, how did my parents inflicted damages on me that probably wasn't intentional? And how does that affect my thinking, the way I feel, the way I behave towards myself and others? And what has to be done? In most cases, as a psychologist, I tell men, even women, that at this age you have to reparent yourself. You have to give yourself what your parents never gave. So you become 19 and you're looking to find a woman and you want a relationship. That's not the priority. The priority is, who am I? How did I get here? How do I fit in and contribute significantly to society? How did parenting and culturing during childhood get me to this point? And what needs to be done so that I can be a contributing factor and I can be a man of substance in the world in which I live.
At what stage of a boy's development, a child's development, should parents start teaching them these simple but important lessons? And failure to do such, what directions or the challenges that they may encounter as they grow older?
All right, so those are two significant questions. It starts at birth. The male child is least lifted up compared to his sister. So he's already growing up with deficiency in affection. The girl child is lifted up more, played with more, cuddled with more, everything more. The male child less. Because after all, you're a man pick-me. All this lovey-dovey thing we don't go in for.
And don't cry too much.
Right. So he's growing up with less affection from birth. Then if he is pushed off into daycare, he's now struggling with 10, 15 other children in that daycare class for one teacher's attention, affirmation, approval, acceptance that he never got from his parents. Then he's pushed into primary school. For example, he might be with his sister. His sister gets, she has a sore on one of her legs. The parent put that child on the lap, use cotton wool and plasters and band-aids and everything, and fix that. And when he has a sore, he has to sit in a corner and pull off the scarf and do all these things because nobody has any time. He wants to talk about his experience, and he starts rattling about how he feels and what he thinks. And somebody says, only girls talk so much. Or he cries about being rejected or abandoned or not being loved. And somebody says he's a sissy. Men don't grow like that. So that's what happens during childhood. And he learns that when I have challenges, I have to figure it out. When things are not going right, I have to learn and figure it out in silence. I have to do all these things for my sister, but they don't do anything for me. I have been unconditionally cultured and parent to self-sacrifice. And that's significant. So now he's robbed of his emotions. We are mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. 25% each. And so at an early age, at 3, 25% is just chopped off and says, if you only embrace this, you're not growing up to be a man. So now that is abandoned. So his identity is now confused. And then he's cultured to sacrifice. Do this for your sister, do that for your sister. And then he's cultured all the way through. So now he gets to 18, 19, 20, 25.
And because I asked you about the challenges, and we'll get to that in a sec. But as a child growing up, I have about 5 or 6 brothers, right, in addition to my sisters. But I grew up with 3 of them, 2 older and a younger one. Now, the thing is, I could remember my mother saying that as a child, I'm always determined to get what I think I should have, right? The guys, they would ask one time, and then that's the end of the request. But I am going to pursue my parents to the end until I succeed. Why do you find that happening? Like, you know, because then it becomes an issue where you say, oh, look, the girl is always getting what she wants, but then the boys, they don't get what they need. I mean, they get what they need, but not necessarily what they want. So why is it that they don't speak up enough? Or why do they maybe shut down after the first request, and we don't get to hear much of what they think they should need?
So let's
that stage.
Let's look at it this way. You tell your mom that you want 2 dolls and another gift for your Christmas. And then, mommy, piece of the doll.
Yeah, I'm like that.
Yeah. And then he wants a gun and maybe 2 or 3 toy soldiers. And he says, mommy, please throw it. And she says, you're a bug, or stop bothering me. Now, your mom will tell you initially, stop bothering me.
Yeah.
And you go and cry. And then somebody comes and says, don't cry, we're going to sort it out. She tells him the same thing. He can't cry. He has to deal with that. And now it's up to him as to how he wants to interpret it. And he interprets it as, I'm a burden. I have to figure it out on my own. I have to provide it for myself. My sisters get what they want. And so he lives the sacrificial life, which explodes in adulthood.
Let's talk about that. When these things are left untreated, they become problematic, as we would have seen in society. What are some of the directions that men tend to go into because of these unresolved issues? Like, what are some of the challenges that they have to, maybe in teenage? So you don't even get to adulthood sometimes, and we see some young boys heading down the wrong path.
So it's so diverse, and there are several consequences. The thing with childhood trauma is that 2 persons can go through the same trauma and end up differently because of mindset, background, gender, all of that. So for the boy child, it's just around age 3, our self-esteem begins to generate. And our self-esteem is critical in terms of identity, resilience, and purpose in life. So at age 3, gender, self-esteem. We get to between 5 to 12, we learn socialization, how to negotiate. If the child is, so let's look at it from this context. As a human being, we need 5 A's from our parents before we get to 19. And if we don't get these 5 A's, then we spend the rest of our lives looking for them. Not only that, it distorts the way we think about ourselves and others, the way we feel about ourselves and others, and the way we behave towards ourselves and others. So one of those A's is affection. Unconditional love. Whether you got big head, small head, no foot, nothing, the love is unconditional. When daddy abandons the home, and I'm growing up with my single parent mom, there's no affection. Mommy can do all she wants. I still lack the affection from my dad. Then there was acceptance. Mom, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be a musician, or I want to be a YouTuber. No, 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 no. Mom, I don't want to okra today. You're going to eat what we cook. That's lack of acceptance, meaning that you don't have agency. There's no autonomy. You're controlled. We make decisions for you. Then there is attention. Son, I haven't seen you smile in 2 days. Son, what is bothering you? Nobody asks, nobody sees. Daddy doesn't even know my favorite color. Then there is approval. Dad, look what I draw. Nobody to validate me, nobody to approve of me, who I am, and what my thinkings are. And then there's no affirmation. I fail maths. Daddy says you're going to come home early from work so we can sit down. That builds resilience, that builds sense of belonging, that builds identity. So when you have the boy child or the male coming up in a single parent home where the dad is not there, all 5 of that is absent. Now he joins a gang hoping to get it. So if that happens at an early age, between 5 and 12, he's now beginning to be sturdy because he's now figuring out you gotta grow up tough, you gotta grow hard, you can't cry, you gotta look after your sister, nobody look after me. Then in the developmental stage of 12 to 18, which is adolescent, which is the most vulnerable stage in anybody's existence, is the period where the child identity is formed, where sense of purpose is established. And that is done by challenging boundaries, interacting with peers, and negotiating moral concepts with your own thinking, and blending it with societal expectations. Now, if you didn't have a good childhood, so your self-esteem is poor, you struggle with resilience, you don't think that you're good enough, you move through adolescent because daddy was not there, you can't go to school, so you're already thinking at 13 that well, I can start working the next 2 weeks to make money to help look after mommy and my sister. So you're robbed. And then you show up at 22. And you can't form any connection or any attachment because there wasn't any as a male child. You can't be emotional with your wife or your girlfriend because you were told that wasn't important. And so you have, most times for men at those early stage, there are significant level of depression that is untreated, significant level of anxiety that is untreated, post-traumatic stress disorder, borderline and antisocial personality disorders. If he's on drugs, then they can be drug-induced schizophrenic. He grows up with anxious avoidant personality disorder, wanting intimacy, wanting to be close, but become scared when intimacy begins to be a realization. He struggles with paranoia. He can't trust people, and then he looks what happens with other men, and he can't relate because he's fearful and he doesn't know how to do that. Now, that's if the father is absent. If the father is present, and I tell people that the father that is present but not validating is worse than the father that is not there. So you can have a father that is present but he's emotionally unavailable. He was brought up in the same culture. So I watched Daddy don't cry, Daddy never went to the hospital, Daddy don't do clinics, Daddy start working early. I want to be like Daddy. And so you have a production or a reproduction of the same thing, and so you have a supply of men that are distorted, that are struggling with sense of identity. And the reason why I want to emphasize self-esteem, because self-esteem is what determines whether somebody gets up or whether somebody stays down in life. Self-esteem.
You spoke about fathers, those that are absent, and the impact it would have on boys growing up. And I know we can't paint this with a single brush, but when you look and you've encountered in your profession, many families, I assume, single parent families as well, and families in which the father is absent. What are some of the primary reasons? Is it that because they have unresolved issues, or it's both sides? I know, like I said, it's not a single factor, but what are the primary issues? Why men are leaving? Because when we talk in society, we often hear about, the father is not there. In some cases, the father is either away working, maybe in Guyana case in the interior, or they're sent maybe to a different district, or they're simply not there.
So, men who work far away, most times, had or still have a father that is emotionally unavailable. In his head, you make the money, you bring home, it doesn't matter where in the world you go, you send the money. So I go into the interior, I spend 6 months, 5 months, feel good. At least I'm providing the money.
Or providing for your family, because that's what you were taught to do.
Right. But he can't relate emotionally. And emotionally traumatized men don't have emotional relationships, and they don't know how to express themselves emotionally. And so he looks at that, and one of the things that makes families, marriages difficult, I see that in several couples that comes, is that we marry the person that mirrors our parents. So as a female, you grew up with a dad that was emotionally unavailable, but he was stern. Daddy didn't really talk too much, but then guess what? I find men that don't talk much attractive. And you walk right into, because you had 18 years of that or 25 years of that. And so you be married. For men, daddy was not there. Mommy organized, planned, celebrate our birthday, sent us to school. Mom did everything. Guess what I want? I want somebody strong and organized like my mom to take care of me. And so what we have with women, carrying the emotional labor in relationship. And so men end up marrying who they wanted. I want somebody strong and resilient and organized and logical and not needy like my mom. But he can't relate to that. So for her, she at age 20, in her 20s or early 30s, I love to hear women talk about, when I met him, he only had one brief and he was a nobody and this and that. And so she prided herself that because of me, I built him. Now when she gets into her 30 and 40, she doesn't want that job anymore. For him, that's why I marry you. And so we have this big divorce rate between 40 and 55, where women says that I got married early, I didn't enjoy the life I wanted, but guess what's happening now? My kids are big, they're adults, they can look after themselves. I can go back to school and I can live the life I want. My relationship was on life support. I just pull the plug and I start my life. Now it becomes problematic for men because I thought that I married the woman that I wanted. And of course, she signed up for the role 20, 30 years, 2 decades, 3 decades ago. But right now, she doesn't want that role. But I can't do anything about it. So you have men that are emotionally unavailable. You have men that have untreated mental illness. You have men with personality disorders. They have men that do not, that has dysregulated nervous system. And this is one of the ways it is manifested in men. Your wife says, she come home, she looks mad, and she said, we need to talk. And then he started doing everything to avoid that conversation. Now, what happened is that his nervous system has been triggered. When mommy came home, when we were 10 and 15, and she said, we got to talk, it's licks, is something wrong I do? Poops. Here's this woman saying the same thing, and I'm scared. So my emotions, so I have grown in age, but emotionally, I'm still stuck in childhood. And that's why we find women saying, you're a big man, but you behave like a child. You've had it years, you've had it sized, you have matured, but your sense of identity and sense of belonging, which they began robbing you since year 3, is not there, and so you can't relate. So your wife says, so we have all these problems, and so. You're a big girl, figure it out. Because after all that that's what they told me since I was 5. And I had to figure it out. So you are annoying. so men cannot relate emotionally, yeah? And I think this is the downfall of most relationship. Then what becomes more problematic because is the childhood keeps repeating that when I was small, I had to fetch up water for my sisters. I had to come out my bed at 8 o'clock to go and pick up my sister from dancing to come out. I didn't really want to do that. Now I am 30 and I have to go and pick up my wife. And I have to go and do this. And I have to go and do that for her. And nobody does it. And it feels like childhood is being repeated. And so you can't tell her that I feel unloved. Men saying I feel unloved is strange. So you can't say you feel unloved. You can't say you're sorry. You can't say I feel sad. So what happens with men? There's a client that I have that is 41. He can't watch movies with father and son. Cries. He goes down the road. You see father and son walking in an affectionate position, cries, because he longed for that with his dad. Mm-hmm. His dad was a big thing in a particular engineering company. He started out as an apprentice and his dad didn't even put in a word for him to go there. And so he's feeling this all at 41. Because the thing with unresolved childhood traumatic experience, we try to suppress them, but they don't go away. They control us unconditionally. They control us unconsciously. Mm-hmm. So we begin to do things and say things and we don't know why we are saying that. So your wife comes to you and she touches you and you kind of inch her off, and then you realize, I should have done that. But she's just irritating because she's like too clingy, just because you didn't have it as a child. So you ask a man, so your girlfriend left you, how do you feel? Hey, don't worry. As a dog, I good, I get enough out of girl, I go in the bush and I gonna raise again and I gonna come back and this dog is all right, man. Something don't bother and That's a survival you. I want to hear how you feel. And you'll never hear me say, I feel unloved, I feel betrayed, I'm sad, I feel abandoned, I'm rejected, because those are girl terms. And because of the suppression of his emotion, men commit suicide and dominate with domestic violence, where men becomes the victim and the predator.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about that. Suicide, first of all, and then we'll deal with domestic violence, because that's a big topic. And like you said, they're not only the perpetrators, but they're also the victims. Mm-hmm. Suicide, we're seeing more men than women committing suicide. Mm-hmm. Why is that so?
That's not in Guyana alone. Mm-hmm. That's worldwide. Mm-hmm. Every single country have more men committing suicide than female. Suicide is governed by two fundamental principles: hopelessness and helplessness. And when both of them meshes, suicide occur. Hopeless, that I don't see a path forward. I don't see a way forward. I don't see a way out. I'm not making enough money. My wife makes enough money. They told me that she has to ask me to go out, but she just says, show up dressed, I'm going out with the girls. I'm going to Miami on a vacation because I'm tired. But when I say I want to go on a vacation, well, we got all these bills in this house, all these things to take care of. That's not important. And so he feels hopeless. He also feels helpless because who do I turn to help? Who do I turn to for support? Who do I share my struggles with? And you would know, because you have boys. Your girlfriend leave you, and you go and you tell your male friends, and they laugh. And they said, oh, I know you can't hold a girl. You too weak. So there is no support. So women have support. There are many organizations, there are systems within government that take care of women from an early age. There is none for men. And then you have already been cultured for 18 years. You have to figure it out. You don't talk about it. If you want to maintain your identity as a man, stay silent. So you can't talk in as toddler. Preteen talking is an expression is a problem. Adolescent expression is a problem. I've never seen daddy done it. I've never seen my uncle do it. The men in church don't do that. I don't see people in government do that. And then at 25, your wife says, how are you? I see that you're sad, and she begins to give you attention. You're irritated by the attention she's giving you because you have never gotten it before. And so this is triggering. And you said, there's nothing. Which is the same response like childhood, because you're trying to figure this out. And when you can't figure it out, you turn to suicide, or you realize that you have no power and relevance at home, and that your wife is your partner and is equal, and you weren't cultured that way. And so you start using money as a means of control. And then when you don't have that means of control as finance, you decide that you inflict pain and other violence.
So, because of the manner in which, like you said, men or boys are brought up, and then those boys become men, they're told to be silent. They do not know necessarily how to express yourself. Are you saying that is among the key factors that contribute, in a sense, to domestic violence? In Guyana, we see more women are victims of domestic violence, physical violence, because there are different types of emotional, financial, different types of we call abuse. But with respect to physical violence, when it comes to men and women, women are the victims. How do we address this? We know this is the issue, but how do we address this? And then the other thing is that we must address, there's perception, like you said. Some people believe that men are not victims of domestic violence. And recently we saw a video of a man being assaulted. And this is not anything new. It is happening, but it's mostly unreported. And then when it's reported, based on the reports we've seen, then they're shut down at the level of the police station, or they believe that there is not enough space for them to go express themselves and get help. So let's talk about the issue of domestic violence, the perpetrators and the victims, because they are both perpetrators and victims, but also the issue of providing the space and the systems that would help men overcome these challenges.
So this is in context of human development. In the 21st century, we have a lot of economic development, but we haven't gotten human development. Women have grown significantly. Women's position in society has improved significantly. We have prominent women in society that says, I rather keep my maiden name because I'm more recognized and all right, so, but we can do it, but I'm still going to be called so, even the name before I got married. The challenge is that society has not accommodated men, because society still conducts itself on the premises of 1300s and 1400s and 1200s, where men didn't have emotions. Women are subjected to men. What have happened, we realize that women are no longer subjected to men, but we haven't addressed the other aspect of it, in that for example, there are more men who are staying home. There are more men who are involved in their child's life. But in the cases of a divorce, the wife gets the first option to keep that child, when there can be an open contest to determine who the child stays with. When the division of properties are settled, the wife gets half automatically. These are things that men look at, and these are things that are troubling men, in that we were told that the only way your wife can leave you is if you abuse her or if you're unfaithful. And she can wake up tomorrow morning and say, hey, I married you out of my trauma. I've been trying to running away. I was trying to run away from it. Or I marry you out of rebellion from my parents, who had this ironclad control. And I realized that this is not the way forward for me, and I'm wasting my life. And therefore, I need to come out of this marriage so that I can get myself fixed. And that's reasonable grounds. For him, that's confusion. I provided for you. I take care of you. I'm faithful to you. I haven't abused you, but you're leaving. And so men are more likely to stay in abusive relationship because marriage is status for men. Hey, Taffa, what's your wife? Got a wedding ring? Whatever. Status, powerful. The moment you're single, single life is status for women. Girl, run. And she's celebrated. And so men are now confused as to how do I approach this? And it's linked to identity and belonging. So education is a way in which men can use. Education is a path to wealth. Doesn't really guarantee it. But what it does, it opens your mind. It gives you a broader perspective. It helps you to be more open-minded and to be adaptable and to have a better understanding of life and to appreciate the dynamics and the complexity. When a man leaves school at 17, 14, 15, and he starts working, 10 years after, he's now 26. And he's probably a millionaire. But the girl at 16 went on to UG. So she has a master's. She's more regulated. She understands concepts. A lot of men came and said, Doc, I think my wife is manipulating me and using me. Why? Well, because when she talks, people believe her. But you got more money than her. Like, no, she can put things over and then people more. So he does what he's saying is in my adulthood, my childhood experience is being relived. Because when there's a complaint, my sisters got the benefit. Oh, it's your sister, left your sister. But why you can't treat your sister nice? And now you're an adult and they come to see a psychologist or they go to court. Mom, what is your problem? Sir, wait. And so so when men behave in domestic violence, in killing and stuff like that, it's not what just happened or what was happening in the relationship. It is what happened to me all the time. And right now, they say that you triggered or you crash out or whatever it is, and that's what happens. And so men, once you can't identify your emotions as to why I'm angry, why I'm bitter, why I'm avoidant, why I'm restless, why I can't focus. Once you can't label that, then you can't address your problems.
How could we, for example, persons like relatives, we have family members, some close, some not so close, but how do we detect, or maybe we should simply ask, how are you doing? Like you said, we don't ask often enough, how are you doing? But how do we detect these tendencies and how do we ensure that we provide the necessary help? And a man looking inward, at what point, he should decide, I need help. And where do you go for this help?
Great. So our mothers aren't affectionate to us, though she loves us dearly. A man is going through problems and his mom is going to ask, did you eat today? Do you have money? But she doesn't ask, how are you feeling because of the broken marriage? What are you struggling with emotion? You don't hear that conversation between mother and child. His sister might probably pick it up every now and then. If she doesn't ask the question, she realizes that our brother is going through emotional crisis, and she'd be there in whatever way and form. So we don't have those conversations, even as adults. But the same mom is gonna complain to our adult children that your father don't show me no love and affection, but she doesn't show her son either.
That's why you have cases where both men and women, but men in particular, turn to substance abuse. Is that their way out of it? Whether it's drugs, it's alcohol.
Substance abuse is an escape because I cannot face my life. So I drink because it gets me numb. It blurs the frontal cortex. So I don't have to to sit in silence and think about my dad who never came to my graduation, my dad who never supported me, my mom who I asked her for $1,000 and told me that she didn't have any but gave my stepfather, and then turn around and cussy over and over for not returning the money. All those things plague me. And therefore, if I smoke, I don't have to think about it. If I stay sober, it's torture. So I do drugs, I do alcohol. If I struggle with low self-esteem, I'll go to the gym and I look big and everybody says, Telford, look good, like that. So I have this inflated self-esteem that is generated from external validation. One of the ways, and you asked about ways, so one of the ways you can see a man in crisis is a man who has many women. Many women. Can't live with himself. So I got she, sleep with she tonight, sleep with she tomorrow night, sleep with the other one the next night. I is the bad man around here. That hides all of that struggles that I'm going through. The same thing that alcohol does, the same thing that drugs does. If you see a child crying too much, if you see the aggression, if you see that he is withdrawn, if you see that he is aggressive towards animals, these are clear signs that this child is now acting out. Children look at gender, based on gender, relates to trauma differently. For a woman or a girl, she's going to be withdrawn, she's not going to say nothing much, she's going to cry. For men, you will see it in behavior, because men do not process emotions mentally. They process it through behaviors. And so you look for ways in which they're acting out rebellion, argumentative, absconding from school. These are ways in which boys show those. And again, so if the parent doesn't understand that, and the parent can't relate to that, then it's problematic for the child to get help from home. And so when I see children at an early age, and there are a lot of children that came because their parents talk about behavioral patterns and stuff. I said, so let's keep the child home and let's talk about, let's do some sessions on parenting, because you have created a situation that you have to rectify. All the things with mom beating children in public, and our parents did all of that. And we tell ourselves that, well, not we, there are people who tell themselves that if my parents didn't beat me up and wasn't harsh on me, I would have turned out bad, or I would have been in jail. And we use jail as this gold standard for bad behaved children or lost people. But we can't sleep at night, and we struggle with anxiety and depression, and we have personality disorders because our parents told us that we were stupid, and they're sorry that they made us, and they never really expected us, and you will turn out to be nothing. But we think that because we're not in jail, we're better than those in there, when the person that is in jail just got there because he just could not control his emotions. And so they are what we call small T traumas that we go through: the abandonment, emotional neglect, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual violence, sexual traumas that men have. I have a 17-year-old guy that I'm dealing with, sexually traumatized. He doesn't know whether he likes female or male because that has affected his sexual identity. These things men are going through the most. And need a safe space. Men needs emotional protection. And if you tell the woman that you're with that I need emotional protection, she sees you differently. Because you're supposed to be giving me leadership, protection, vision, but here you're talking about need for emotional protection? Like, what kind of girl you are? So they can't relate. If I tell you how I feel, then you throw it back into my face. And so while men are predominantly physically abusive, and we can ask anybody, the same women or the same people that tell you that men really don't go through abuse, ask them, which is worst, emotional abuse or physical abuse? And they will tell you emotional abuse. When you tell a man, if you can't do it, another man can do it. You're good for nothing. Like, I don't know why I married you. Those, best you're broken his leg. He will recover very fast. And so when a man goes, he already brought up sacrificially, he goes to the extent to take care of his woman, to give her all that she wants. And she says, I don't have enough. I want more than that. And she says, well, you can't give me, I'll get it outside. Well, there's only one option. Go away and be laughed at, or just kill this girl. And this is how we end up, we bring up our boys the same way. In schools, the research that was done about a few years ago, that about 56% of our school children are using drugs and substance because they're numbing that pain from an early age. 20, 30 years ago, we never saw post-traumatic stress disorder in children, school children. Those things show up in 20s and 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing it at 12 and 13. Guys, especially if you're the eldest son, you have to take care. You have to start thinking about, how do I generate money to help mommy and my sisters? And so he automatically is now stuck in childhood, and the world moves on.
Earlier you spoke about the issue of jail. People say, oh, if I didn't get disciplined the way I was, then I would have ended up in jail.
Mm-hmm.
But we see some young men falling to the system. And you said quite a lot about the issues and the challenges facing boys and men. But are there specific contributing factors when it comes to those who end up in the system? Like, why are young boys in particular turning to a life of crime? Is it the economic pressures? Is it, for example, we live in the world of technology. This is the age of technology, social media. Do you think that that's fueling even more that issue?
If your father went to jail, or uncle went to jail, or you had somebody of significance that went to jail, and you have grown up or growing up in an impoverished community, you will end up.
But then I could say to myself, you know what, I've seen what they went through, but I don't want to be like them. I want to be a change. And we've seen men like that.
That's wishful thinking.
You think?
There are women who sees their mom with five children for 5 different men and say, I will never be like mommy. Couple years after, just like mommy. Because the thing is, it's understanding why our parents behave the way they behaved. It's not merely not wanting to be like them. It's understanding what caused mom to have multiple men. And that could mean that one, mom didn't get the attention and the affection and the affirmation, and so she's looking for it in other men. And guess what? I'm in a single parent home, just like my mom, that she grew up and dad wasn't there, and I'm looking for the same thing.
But you've, in a sense, laid much of the blame on parenting.
But not yeah. So
right?
So that's that part.
But hear me out.
Yeah.
You've laid much of the blame for the trauma boys and men they endure. Not enough connection, not enough approval, not enough affection. But there are cases in which you see a nuclear family, both mother and father, they struggled, they endured it all, and they say, you know what, I want to give my children a little more than I did. They go to work, they work 9 to 5, they even have maybe a second job, but yet still you see, and I'm going to say boys in this case because we're speaking about boys and men, turning to crime. It's like you said, I've done all I could, and I hear on social media, because there was an issue recently and we say we saw a video of some children beating up, in this case it was a group of girls beating on another girl, and the attention was placed to the parents, like, what are they teaching these children at home? I have a slightly different perspective, because I feel like you could train your children and then they are independent thinkers and they're socializing, and when they get out there, they're going to socialize, so they're learning different things. So is it a case it's all parents, or are maybe socialization responsible? Because, you know, some parents really do their best.
So I like how your conscious mind is dominating, but I'm listening to the unconscious mind. So several things. One, when a parent has been through trauma, we say we don't want to we want to give our child what we never got from our parents.
Yes.
Who said your child wants what you never got from your parents?
Well, betterment, don't we all betterment?
No. So what is betterment?
Like more food, accommodation, the opportunity to study.
Teenagers don't want more food.
All the resources we think that they need.
Teenagers don't want more food. Teenagers don't want more resources. Teenagers want a parent that understands the struggles that they're going through, that listens, that finds time for them, that give them those 5 A's that we talk about. But we can't do that because we're busy as workaholics, and we're busy doing other things to numb our own self, and we are giving our kids all the gazette and all.
But we could give them that, and isn't that a form
No.
of showcasing affection and appreciation and approval? No,
we're giving our kids all of those things to build our own poor self-esteem, at least. So what we're doing, in a sense, we are competing with our parents. Our parents never gave us those things, but I can prove to my mother and my father that I'm a better parent than them by giving my kids what they want. What your child wants is somebody to listen to me, somebody to understand my struggles. And so we have a lot of parents that are now being misguided, giving their children things when the child doesn't want that. No, I'm not.
So are you saying we can't do both? Are you saying we can't be affectionate yet still give them what they need?
Yeah,
and the question, we're going back to the question.
What is it that they need?
Why they turn into a life of crime?
Yeah, but what is it that they need?
You said love, affection, approval.
Then you talk about boys turning into violence. I have a 9-year-old, severely physically beaten by both parents when he does the wrong things. I had a session with him. And so I said, what's happening? Well, he said last night daddy beat up mommy.
Oh, wow.
And I said, what do you think about it? He said, nothing. I said, why nothing? I said, daddy beat me when I do wrong thing, and mommy didn't hear daddy and she had to get licks.
Oh, wow.
That's what it does. That's how things, well, that might be maybe 2% of the population that thinks so. But when we administer these things, when we tell our children, you can't do this, because this is our plans for you and this is what we want for you, then that's being traumatic. That's putting them through trauma. That's being neglectful. So yes, we are struggling, and there's not all bad things about trauma. There are people who've been through trauma, and I mentioned to you before, two individuals can go through the same traumatic experience and turn out differently. The difference is that one person becomes aware. One person begins to reparent themselves, begin to give themselves the things that I never got from my parents. Gradually, incrementally, one person becomes disoriented, lacks self-awareness, become a people pleaser, become abusive, become neglectful, and so yes, you can have two different persons from the same trauma.
Okay, and so let's go back to this whole issue of, how could we redirect them from this life,
Educating parents, those who are still children, that their parents need to be re-educated, that their perspective of gender should be different. I tell mothers, parent your son the same way you parent your daughter.
And you believe, because you redirected me to parent again, you're dealing a lot on the issue of how we parent our children. But do you think there are economic factors? Do you think
poverty is a trauma? And we underestimate the traumatic impact and the traumatic injury that poverty does. There are two likely outcomes from poverty as a traumatic experience. One, you spend to fulfill the emotional void that you have, or you work hard and you save all your money so that you don't go back into poverty. Both positions are distorted. And so when children realize that I had to eat the same food twice for the week, I don't have proper clothing, everybody else is doing fine. In his mind, I gotta go and work, I gotta make the money. Similarly, a girl or a male child grow up and then his parent doesn't take care of him, and he says, as soon as I get big, I leave. Same thing. If I ask my mom for something and they don't give, as soon as I grow up, I gotta work and give myself. And so what we have is adults competing with their parents to prove to their parents that you didn't give it to me, I give it to myself. And those are all traumatic responses. And so that's how poverty shows its traumatic impact in the way we see money, the way we value money, the way we respect money, and the way we relate to others. Then on a much global, national scale, if you have money, then you can beat the legal system. If you don't have money, you succumb. We see the inequality of redistributions of wealth. At an early age, children know that there are some benefits that they should have that they're not given. And so if we're not getting it through the natural means, then we have to do something to get it. These are all realizations that are being factored into our cognitive processing of the society in which we live, and those galvanize certain behaviors that might not be good. Some people realize that, oh well, I'm a boy and poor people don't have any say. Oh well, so I'm gonna die poor and I'm just gonna accept that as is. Others says, hell no, I'm fighting for what I want, even if I have to injure people.
Now let's talk about solutions. We spoke about the root causes, and you've helped us to understand where those issues are stemming from. As a society, as a community, first as a single unit, a family. And you mentioned along the way some of the things that we could do to improve the way we communicate with men and boys and show them affection and show them love. So I would want you to address one solution from the standpoint of a unit, a family, a community, and then we'll talk about what the government is doing and what the government should be doing. So let's talk about that unit.
And then I want to include what men over 18 can do.
Definitely. So let's start there.
So let's start there
with the unit, and then what men 18
unit.
years or older could do.
As a father, so I'm talking to you, Dad. As a father with sons, maybe your dad was not emotionally available. Maybe your dad was not the person that you really wanted. You became a man and you realized you never got the dad you wanted. But you have a son. You have to be the father for that son. If you're a millennial, what is most important is for you to grow with your son. Learn from your son, have a relationship with your son so you will know that he is struggling with the same thing you struggled with as a child. And so you can be better able to be a better father for him. Accept your emotions. You can cry in front of him. You can ask him to speak about how he feels. You can embrace him emotionally. And so you don't have to worry about him when he becomes an adult and he cannot express himself. This is a moment as a unit where you can invest in your child so that you don't have to be fearful or worry about when he becomes an adult. For moms, you might be running down the father for not being emotionally affectionate, for not being loving, for not being distant. But you have a responsibility to make certain that your son doesn't become like your husband. And you have that responsibility to nurture the culture, to change your own mindset and your distorted views of men and boys so that you can have a man that can grow up to choose a wife and have a beautiful life going forward. In terms of government, I don't know what the government is doing, so I'm going to skip that.
So before we get to government, there are services available. Do you see a lot of men and boys or families coming forward with their children, seeking counseling, seeking help? What are the services available?
So I can talk for me. I since the year started, I got about 60 men that are now
60.
in therapy, and the ages of these men are between 25 and 54. And I applaud them. Those guys are heroes. I think from the government standpoint, I think there is men on mission.
Men on mission, yeah.
Nice name. I think it has a national reach, but we should be building houses. We should be having meetings, sessions, helping men to identify and to process their emotions, to help to reestablish their identity, help them to rebuild their self-esteem, sense of belonging, fellowship, so that they can grow emotionally. Men are not growing emotionally. Building houses, weeding yard.
No.
That we can pay people to do that. That can be done on any other given. Let's talk about the things that cannot be seen. Let's talk about the emotional man.
So you want them to be more out in society, having more engagement, maybe having therapy sessions.
Yeah, engagement as a unit, to talk about things that men cannot talk with other men, they cannot talk with women, and that they are struggling with silently. That's what we need. We need association or fellowship or community of men that can talk things in safe space where they can allow to be vulnerable, allowed to show weakness, and still celebrate it for that.
Should we start at the school level? I know that, schools have counselors and so on, but you think maybe since the issue here, we're talking about men and boys, maybe in the school setting from an early stage, you have clubs, you have the church clubs, the religious clubs and things like that. You have environmental clubs. Maybe we should have clubs in our schools where boys could go and express themselves, or community clubs.
So I think part of the curriculum should be, there should be 2 classes probably a week, starting from nursery, that has, you can probably label it emotional intelligence or emotional awareness, where you talk about emotional matters, where a boy can come to school at age 8 and goes to a class that talks about how do you survive absent fathers? How do you express when you're sad? How do you deal with rejection? How do you deal with the fear of abandonment? How do you deal with not being seen or heard? And you get grades for that. And you read books and you write notes. And if those things happen in primary, and then he gets into secondary school, and that is there, I'm guaranteeing you that as a man, he's much more and better equipped to deal with a complex and diverse society.
We have the Human Services Ministry as well. Do you see a lot of their programs, or do you think we need to reshape or redirect our messages, or the way we message, put out messages? To some extent, or to a large extent, they target women. Do you think more from that ministry's standpoint should be done to cater to the issues affecting men? Like, what are some of the programs, aside from the Men on Mission and these community engagements, like what are some of the support systems that you believe we could implement through that ministry or through the government?
We need, and I don't know, and I want to say this as a disclaimer, I don't know what they have, but this is what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
For those ministries and those units and those departments, we need conventional men, not traditional men. Traditional men is the problem. Traditional men says that women have to submit, that women have to give in, that men are dominating, that you have to work and sacrifice your life, and you must not complain about it. We need conventional men who are willing to say, all right, so we're going to date, let's do 50-50. And he doesn't feel that he's less than a man. That can cry, can go on TV wherever and cry without feeling judged. So we need conventional men. For broader extent, and one of the reasons why Guyana is second to Jamaica as it relates to poor mental health, the two jurisdictions within the English-speaking Caribbean with the worst mental health crisis, is because our society is has been so traumatic that we have managed to excel professionally and not personally. And those in professional positions says, if I can make it, everybody else can make it. Don't give them nothing. So you don't have emphasis on mental health. You don't have emphasis on boys. You don't have emphasis on men. You have emphasis on women. Because if you compare that, the women in government agencies that are running these programs and these initiatives are conventional women that understand the dynamics. And so the first thing is having the personnel that is relevant to the time to deal with that. And to come to the place where we have men in government that has significant personality disorders that are running this country from a poor mental health standpoint. And nobody's saying anything. We laugh about it. We behave like it's normal. We have men that are struggling in government with being paranoid, that psychopathic, sociopathic, narcissistic, because of poor childhood experiences, but they have struggled to make it to the top, and they have used politics to live the life they want. And we don't say anything about that. We don't even deal with that. We think that the man walking naked on the road, he's the madman. And so it becomes important as a nation to able to identify this, to take the stigma off of mental health. Our sisters are going to see the doctor because she missed her period 2 times. And she's not going to see the doctor because she thinks she's crazy or something wrong with her. She wants to understand what is going on. So as a man, you realize that your thoughts are racing. You realize that you can't sleep. You realize that every time you're in your quiet space, you remember how stupid your mom said you are, or your class teacher said that you're not going to make it, and you're struggling because when you face challenges, you're like, oh yeah, my teacher was right, I may never get there. Or you know what, I'm living my life just to prove to my teacher that I could be successful. You can go to a psychologist that is competent, that is qualified to help you to understand the impact of your childhood traumatic experience.
You offer those services. Where are you located? If persons are listening to this program, they're going through some of the same issues that you've identified. How do they get in contact with you?
So my number is 655-0796. I'm on Facebook as Telford Layne. I have a website that is called Unwrapping Gifts, where we believe that whatever developmental disorders, mental illness, personality disorders that you have, that you still remain a gift and you're still gifted. And we help to repeal all of those traumatic experiences so that you can enjoy the quality of life. I'm located in South Rumpelt, Congress Drive. We do sessions, reasonable. I factored into, I don't make money from psychology. Psychology is status. I have clients in the UK, I have clients in the States and other Caribbean islands. They pay $100 per session. I can't ask a Guyanese to pay $20,000 when they're taking home $160, and they have to come and see me 4 times a month. So I do that for just about $8,000-9,000 a month.
Okay, and you said
per session.
So far, you have seen maybe about 60 men.
Yeah, so I've always been having men, but I just have a lot of, well, not a lot, more men. So my biggest clientele are women, and not older women, women in 25, between 25 and 35, but a lot of young women come. And I celebrate them because the thing is, growing up, we believe that if I suppress my childhood experience, it's going to disappear. But it manifested in marrying, so we marry out of trauma. We marry because we didn't get this as a child, so we marry this man or this woman to get it. And so trauma manifests itself unconsciously in so many ways that we may not think. So if you think that you can outrun childhood traumatic experience, I want to bet you it's going to catch up with you.
And you should seek help.
In your 30s, in your 40s, even in your 50s. But I guarantee you that before you get to 40, it's going to catch you.
Closing remarks.
The first 18 years of your life was the responsibility of your parents. They wanted to do their best, but they themselves were brought up in traumatic experience, and they did what they could have done, but then they did a number on us that caused us to be emotionally abused, emotionally neglected. We knew that the things that they were doing wasn't right, and we didn't like it. We felt hurt, but then we find ourselves as adults doing the same thing. We try to suppress the hurt, the abandonment, but it still keeps showing up. Now, as an adult, you're responsible for choosing your own job, choosing who you want to get married to, choosing who you want to live, and you can choose to have a better mental health and to enjoy the life that you deserve.
Thank you so much, Dr. Layne.
Hey.
Yeah, it was a pleasure speaking with you, and I know our audience learned quite a bit about, those root causes, because oftentimes we look on the surface, we talk about, yeah, this is happening, but not enough go into the root causes of what are affecting us as a society. What are the issues affecting our brothers, our fathers, and even our sisters and mothers. So thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Sources. I've been your host, Svetlana Marshall.